I'm gonna go look at my channel and see what's happening.
Okay. It says live.
Experimenting. All right, let's see what happens.
That's the beauty of live TV, eh?
Okay. Yes, it did create a separate stream. So I'm gonna have to update everybody that this is the new stream.
Okay. It just popped up in my notifications. That's funny.
Yes. So I'm gonna let everyone know what the new stream link is, so that we are good to go. We're good to go.
Right.
We're good to go.
Good to
Okay,
go.
give me just a second. I'm going to update everybody. If you can update everybody, update everybody. That'd be such a good thing. When we all work together, it all works out.
Exactly.
All right. I will fix everything later on with our thumbnail and all that stuff.
Okay.
And all right, I think we're good. Oh, sweet. And then there's like the chat and everything. That's cool. Okay, I haven't used StreamYard before. Okay, hopefully that worked. Okay, thank you guys for following over to our new link. If you watch my show, you know that sometimes I have difficulties with the technology. Sometimes my audio doesn't work. Sometimes I try to have a guest and it's all kablooey. But you know what? Today I figured it out. I'm using StreamYard. I did have to create a new link, so thank you for following me over here. But here we are. Welcome to the Gory Hole. It is wonderful to see all of you weirdos. I'm Gory B Movie, and with me today is my very special guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, world. I'm Mr. Flixter, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Gory.
Thank you for coming. I'm excited. We've been talking for a while, and I love that you're regularly in the Gory Hole. So we're buddies. We go back, but we haven't actually got a chance to hang out and talk about horror movies. So I'm excited for this opportunity. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I asked you what your expertise is, and you told me slasher movies, and I love slashers. So today we're going to be talking about our favorite, like obscure, underrated, forgotten, maybe hidden gems of the slasher world. Because that's kind of what we do on this channel here. We try to shed some light on maybe movies you haven't heard about. If you're here and you like this show, I know you like Halloween. I know you've seen Friday the 13th, but we're going to talk about some movies that maybe you'd also really like that you haven't seen yet. And we're not going to do this in like a list format. We're just going to off the cuff. Like me and Mr. Flixter, we're chill dudes is what we are. First, as is customary on this channel, we need to show off our t-shirts. So today I have the perfect one for today.
Oh, nice.
You like scary movies too? And a sweet ghost face skirt.
That's awesome. Love it. I got my Horror Buzz TV shirt, horrorbuzz.com. In case you didn't know it, I'm a film critic on this website. There's a link below for that, I believe, or there will be.
Tell them what Horror Buzz is and what you do on your channel.
Basically, we do reviews for movies. We do Halloween haunts because sometimes they go all year round, not just Halloween. We cover different events that go around different cities all over the world. We cover books. We cover magazines. Basically, anything and everything that has to do with horror, we cover. So if you're interested, horrorbuzz.com.
And do check out his links. I'm going to add more. Right now, we do have the YouTube and the Twitter. You're going to want to subscribe to him. This is like a new channel. So you can be one of those cool horror hipsters. Like, what? I was watching Mr. Flix before he became big. So definitely you want to be one of those guys. You want to be on the inner circle. And we can all brag about how savvy we are when, he's like got like 1 million subscribers. I want to say hi to everyone in the Gory Hole. I'm a little disoriented because I've been on streams with StreamYards. I've never hosted a stream with StreamYard. So it's a little different, but I'm very happy to see my girl Tatum in the chat. And you know these guys. They're your fellow weirdos in the Gory Hole, right, Mr. Flixter?
Yeah.
Beth, we got Denisha, Alucard, Screaming for Conrad. He came in super early today, which was awesome. Always nice to see Robin. Danny Nightmare. I hear that guy is ridiculously good looking. JK's 80s horror fan. Lots of familiar faces. Awesome to see everybody. I know we got a lot of slasher fans in the chat. And yeah, like I said, I don't know if you planned anything, but I'm just going to go off the cuff.
I got a little list here. Yeah.
Okay. Hit me with the first item on your list then.
Okay, the first one I got to talk about is the one that came to my head immediately when you said hidden gems for slashers. and that is Stitches.
Brilliant. So tell us about Stitches. I
All
know
right, well,
Stitches is about a clown, and it's an Irish horror film. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Okay, basically, well, it was directed by Connor McMahon and written by him and David O'Brien as well. And basically, this clown goes to do this party for a bunch of like the biggest brats in the world. Like these kids are so obnoxious, and basically they do a prank and they accidentally end up killing Stitches. So many years later, I think it's 10 years or so, all the kids are at high school and he comes back for revenge. And I don't want to say too much in case you haven't seen it, because that's the whole point of these movies. Maybe you haven't seen it yet, but this movie is so much fun because, well, the gore in this is just so over the top and cartoonish. Like you just have to laugh at it. It's just so silly. Have you seen it, Gory?
Yes, I have.
You have? Okay,
it is
so you know what
on,
I'm talking about.
I think it's on Shudder.
It's on Shudder,
you can catch this one on Shudder. But yeah, you can catch it streaming. It's one more people really need to see. And like you said, I love the kills in this. And I think what I like about slasher movies is they have almost, I think for me, slasher movies are kind of like how some people who are really into action movies enjoy action movies. If you watch an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie like Commando and he blows away 80 people, you don't want to think about their fucking families and stuff. You're having fun with the intense action. And in slasher movies, that's how it is. You want to have fun with the kills. You want them to be fun. And then this movie does that perfectly. They're so gory and cartoonish. It's got that perfect slasher movie tone to it, and you want these kids to buy it. At least I
did. Yeah. One second. Ross Noble plays the clown, and he's like a really big deal over there in the UK. Like he was a big time comedian. He was on TV a lot. So when this movie came out and he was cast in the role, it was a really, really big deal. You're from the UK yourself, aren't you, Gory?
I am. I grew up in Suffolk, in Ipswich. My dad was in the military, so my dad is American. My mom's English. We did move around a lot. I lived in Oxford for a little bit, but I did move to America when I was about 11, and I didn't have a super strong accent, and we don't have very thick accents in Suffolk. But I did work for about a year after getting teased horribly on losing that accent and switching schools, and we ain't never going back unless I'm around my family or really drunk. Then I sound particularly British. But yes, I'm a mutt. I'm British. I'm American. I lived in all these places. One of my fellow countrymen, though, is in the chat. Movie Massacre, and what he says is Ross Noble used to be one of my favorite comedians. His stand-up is incredible. It was great to see him play the clown in Stitches. It's such a fun movie. Very cool. Dr. Waluigi.
You know, it's like the first scene in that movie, you can tell they do not want you to take the subject matter seriously. I don't know if you remember how it starts, but I watched it this morning just because this is one of my comfort movies. Like I put it on when I'm busy doing like housework and stuff, just so I can hear it. It's even the dialogue, it's so funny. Like the stuff, it's got likable characters. I like how all the kills are like clown related, so it adds the kind of like the silliness to it. And then you have this whole like mythology and like this cult of clowns. Like it's just so funny.
It gets weird. I actually am surprised we haven't gotten a. Hey, wait, look at that. I drew a Jason drawing. I'm actually looking for a clean piece of paper. This is what I do. My notebooks, it's like, oh, there's a dick. But I'm going to write down the movies as we list them. And then if you are curious about checking one of these out, maybe you haven't seen it before, I'm going to have a list in the chat. So you'll have the movie, the year, because I know that's something I would want to do is if I heard a cool movie I haven't seen, I'm going to want to see that. And that's what the point of this is. So as we talk about these, I'm going to put them in the chat. Mr. Flixter. And yes, guys, you have to say the Mr., okay? He didn't live his whole life just to be called, just Flixter, okay? It's Mr. Flixter. Mr. Flixter, okay? Show some goddamn respect.
Dr. Flixter is my brother.
No fucking way, really? So cool. I don't think any of the other Gories have gotten a doctorate in anything. But my mummy is Mummy B Movie. So there's that.
Oh, that's awesome.
We have a detective Gory. One of the other Gories in the multiverse is a detective. I think that's the best. Multiverse. I think that's the best that a Gory has ever managed to do. Yeah. One of the Gories and one of the universes scored. That's the Beavis and Butthead reference. Anyway, so the smartest Gory scored. Oh, it was me, and I scored with Horror Addicts. I'm so sorry. You're just like, I'm instant regrets. I want to talk about I want to talk about one of not just one of my favorite slasher movies, one of my favorite horror movies, I think, in at least the last decade. It's probably my favorite. The Final Girls. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have. That's a good one.
I adore this movie. One, it's very rare that you can find a horror movie that will make you laugh and cry. This movie has got like Adam Devine in it. It's got some great comedians in it. This movie is laugh out loud fucking funny. It also has a lot of heart. What this movie is about, if you haven't heard of it, it's very meta. So if that's something that you enjoy, like screaming stuff, it's gonna be right up your alley. But it's about a girl whose mother was in kind of like a Friday the 13th movie. And she dies in the movie. And she's used to her mom being kind of this B movie actress her whole life. And her mom is her best friend. Then her mom dies in an accident. And she was in these B movies. And you know how the horror fan base is with our movies. And they keep asking her to come to these screenings and stuff. And she doesn't want to. She's grieving. She's in pain. She finally agrees to do it. And the fire breaks out. And long story short, they end up going into the movie. So she meets a character version of her mother who doesn't know that she's her mother. It's a character. And she's like, holy shit, I could save her. I could get her to not have sex and not die. And I could have a version of my mom back. But it explores all of the meta stuff. Like they're like, oh, that's the final girl. The badass girl comes up. Like, and they can't escape it. When bad things happen, if they die, it just resets. So it's really cool. It's really fun, but it has a lot of heart to it. And one of the things I love about this movie, and I have talked about this movie on my channel a lot. So if you've heard the story before, sorry, but not sorry. It is written by what is the name of the actor? I want to get his name right for you guys. So it's written by M.A. Fortin and Joshua John Miller. So Joshua John Miller, he played the little brother in Teen Witch. He played Homer in Near Dark. He's been in a few other things, mostly as a child actor. And I love the trivia with this one because he was in Near Dark the same year his half-brother, Jason Patric, was in Lost Boys. So they were in the two of the greatest vampire movies of all time. Same year, half-brothers, which is really fucking cool. Really fucking cool. The other cool thing is he is a gay screenwriter. So is the other guy who wrote this. And so they talked a lot about how that formed a lot of the things in this movie, that growing up as somebody who felt like an outsider, as somebody who is gay, they really related to these, one, the monsters, but also the final girls. The final girls were like these heroes for them. And so they both really were passionate about making kind of a throwback love letter to 80s slashers. But the thing that really turns me on about this movie, like the heart of it, is Joshua John Miller's father, it's also Jason Patric's father, is Jason Miller. Jason Miller was Father Karras in The Exorcist. So that's where the story comes from. His father died in real life, but his father is best known for a movie where he famously dies, where he famously falls down those steps. He'd be asked to go to showings and stuff where you have to see your father, to him it's dad, die over and over again. And it was painful. It was very painful. And so he wanted to write a movie like that. Like, what would it be like if he could go into The Exorcist and save his dad and have his dad back? And so they made this movie. It's an awesome, cool movie. And it was intended to be this rated R, tits and blood and stuff. And they sent it to the studio. And the studio's like, you need to make some changes. Women don't like horror movies. So you need to, if you're going to make this a mother-daughter thing for women, you need to get rid of the tits and the blood, because women don't like that, which really makes me angry. Because obviously they have no idea what women want.
They have no idea what horror fans want. No.
Exactly. And they said that, or if you want it towards men don't like ooey gooey stuff with like, mother-daughter relationships. They're not going to like that. You need to make it a romantic thing, And again, it's like saying, so you're saying men are heartless and women can't handle blood and gore, and that we don't enjoy those things. They have no idea. So that's why I always say, guys, vote with your dollar. Check this movie out, pay for this movie, buy this movie. You see cool movies like this in the cinema, spend your money on it, because that's what tells the producers. They listen to money. They only listen to money. So when you spend your money on things like this, then they kind of wise up a little bit more. Unfortunately, because of that, Joshua John Miller was not willing to compromise, obviously, the heart of the story, the mother-daughter relationship. So they sacrificed a little bit of the gore and the tits, but I still think it's a great movie. Halloween doesn't have a whole lot of gore. You know, there's not a whole lot of nudity in some of our favorite slasher movies. And I think with this one, the story is the real draw here. I wish they could have made the movie they wanted to make, but I still think it's a phenomenal, phenomenal film. And, you know, it's just got a great soundtrack. It's beautiful. The visuals are beautiful and bright and vibrant. It's really a hidden gem of a movie, one I highly, highly recommend if you guys haven't seen it already.
I couldn't agree with you more. I really like how this is kind of like a combination of like Happy Death Day and like Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like there's two of them combined, but it's got like a horror twist to it at the same time. So I thought it was really well done. And usually when movies have high concepts like that, they have problems sticking the landing. But even the end, I thought it was very satisfying. I won't say what it is exactly, but you know, it's one of those movies where you, well, you know, some movies you watch them and the end just kind of ruins the whole thing for you. You're like, no, that's it, done. Yeah, this is not like that. This sets up a very high concept and it sticks the landing, in my opinion. But that's all I'll say about the end.
I highly recommend listening to the commentary. The commentary is brilliant. Talks about all this stuff. Also talks about how some of the secret ending elements that maybe weren't in the movie. If you want to know what happens to some of the characters that isn't explicitly expressed to the film, which I think is kind of cute. But I do love this movie. I think it's fantastic. It's also very similar to another one I'm going to mention in a little bit, but this one it's a great movie. It's got just Malin Ackerman is terrific. I know what they really wanted. There's a very iconic scene at the end, the one that makes everyone cry, set to Betty Davis eyes, and they fought tooth and nail to get Like a Virgin, and they just couldn't because it's too expensive and they couldn't get the rights. But I do think it's just kind of perfect. And you know, like how a lot of people are turning on to Kate Bush right now because of Stranger Things. I think it's one of those movies that's just gonna like, you hear that song, you think of this movie, it just makes you happy. I like it. But let's get to another one of your picks.
All right, my next pick is kind of an older film. It's from the 80s, from 87 actually. It's called Stage Fright. And I'm so glad that you included that with the thumbnail. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, I gotta talk about that movie.
That's one of the ones I was gonna bring up too. I actually just saw this one fairly recently as an adult, like maybe 6 years ago. Not to be confused, it's also known as Aquarius. It's a Italian movie. There's a modern remake, which is also fantastic. In fact, we might talk about that one next. But yes, tell them all about Stage Fright. That cool owl creature on the thumbnail, this is Stage Fright.
Yeah. It's the Owl Man. And it's funny that you included that too, because I actually reviewed this for horrorbuzz.com. And I gave it a 10 out of 10. I rarely give out perfect scores like that, but it's just that much fun. Like, it's got creative kills. No two kills are the same. And I really like that in a horror movie because, you know, that's the one thing about Scream. I love Scream so much, but it's always just hack and slash, stab. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the same thing again. Not disparate Scream or anything like that. I love Scream. It's one of my favorites. But this one is just so cool because it's about, it's really meta. Because it's about like a musical about the serial killer, but the serial killer is going around killing all the people like during the rehearsals and stuff like that, one by one. So you got characters playing certain real people and then they interact with the characters, kind of like Scream 3 sort of thing, but this is way before that and it does it so much better. It's really good at suspense. It's really good at tension. I love foreign films because they approach filmmaking so much differently than like the Hollywood standards do it. They're not focused on like traditional love stories or anything like that. They don't try to shoe in extra. Like this gets to the point and it gives people exactly what they want. Like they signed up for a slasher. Well, here's a good slasher for you. It does not disappoint. This one, I'm surprised I hadn't even heard of it. And then all of a sudden it just came across my desk one day and they gave me the screener. And I was like, what is this movie? And how come, like, where's this been all my life? You know what I mean? Like, it's just that kind of.
It's incredible. And the
I'm really
visuals are
no one's
gorgeous.
Talking about it.
Like the feathers, how they use the feathers. And what's cool about this movie, like the premise
so
of it, is these actors in a play. They have to do like a lock-in. I can't remember what. I think it wasn't he just like you have to be like serious about your art or some dumb shit. He makes them do a lock-in. So they're locked in this fucking building, and there's a killer in the building dressed as like an owl, which I don't know. It sounds dumb, but it's awesome. And it's awesome. They're stuck in there all night. And like you said, the kills are really awesome. But I love the cinematography in this. It's something we see in a lot of like Italian movies, especially like Italian slashers, that I think is just really cool.
Giallo, yeah.
Awesome. Anything else you want to say about it?
I don't want to just repeat what you said. I like that it's self-aware. I like that it's just a simple premise, and it does well. It doesn't try to be something that it's not, because a lot of slashers, they try to throw in like social commentary, and not that that's not good in movies, but certain movies you don't want to think about that stuff. Like you said with like Schwarzenegger movies, you just want to go there and have a good time with your slasher. And this is just a good old-fashioned slashing, as I like to call it.
I love movies that make us think and make us challenge our beliefs and stuff. But with slasher movies, because you're going there to see people die, I think you kind of need that kind of surreal type killings in it. You know, you want to care about the characters, so you need to have a few characters, especially if a key character dies, like Randy dies in Scream 2. You should care. But you can't stop the movie every time someone dies. I mean, that's the point of the movie. And so movies that balance that tone well are really kind of essential to be a great slasher movie.
I agree with that completely. What do you have next for your list?
Well, I'm going to briefly mention, because we both kind of talked about that one, the remake of Stage Fright. It came out in the 2000s, and it's a musical. And I want to say I hate musicals, but I'm not a musical kind of gal. This movie is so fucking metal, dude. So the killer is like this, like he's dressed in like kabuki paint, and it's so cool. The kills are so good. The songs are so metal. It's just fucking awesome. I don't know. Have you seen that one?
I have, and I like how it's a combination of music too. Like the main people that have like the classical, traditional, like Broadway style music, but then you get to the killer, and it's all like metal and stuff like that, and it switches back and forth. And I like how it's at like a music summer camp this time, because that kind of opens the door for way more creative.
I know, and I've never heard of a music summer camp, but it's hilarious. It's got like little bits of sleepaway camp, little bits of like I don't know. It's like if Dawkins made a movie. Dawkins, we're the dream warriors, that kind of thing. It's just metal. It is metal. It is metal as fuck. It's so good. So good. And I love the killer. The killer kind of reminds me of my buddy Count Jacula a little bit.
But yeah, I was really surprised. I'm like, okay, if you're gonna remake something, because I believe certain things shouldn't be remade, but some movies do need to get remade just so you can kind of trim the fat and kind of like concentrate your ideas. But this one also implemented new ideas. It's not just the same film again. Like the Psycho remake, I hate that film so much. I don't get why they even made that the Psycho remake. But no, this is one that's so equally pointless. I wouldn't say it's better because you can't really. It's like apples to oranges. You know what I mean? Because one's like tonally different. Like I think the remake is more of a comedy, but there's nothing wrong with that. I like when slashers can combine their horror and their humor. It's always good.
I agree. Phantom Paradise, as Cheetah mentioned in the chat, is another really good one. But this one, it's very much its own thing. I almost wouldn't even call it a remake. I don't even know if it's intended to be a remake or if it just happens to have the same title. Because like I said, the original Giallo one is also called Aquarius. They really don't have a lot in common aside from the name. And that's one of the other things I expected when I came into this movie. I expected it to be a more musical version of the original. They really don't have anything in common. Except for the fact that, I don't know, it's about theater people. But it's so good. They're both great. They're fantastic.
My one complaint is they could have brought back the owl mask, because I love that. That was so badass.
I love that owl mask. And one of my favorite parts of that is the original. Towards the end when they had that really tense scene. Because the cool thing about the owl costume is you can't see the person's face at all. You have no idea if they're conscious, if they're awake, like anything. You don't know what's going on. It's got that creepy quality that you get with like sports mascots. Like my son used to be terrified of those as a kid because he said, I don't know what their face is doing. And then you also have all these feathers going around, and it's beautiful and creepy. It's got kind of a quality like that movie Labyrinth. It's so cool. I don't know. I adore it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Hit me with another one, buddy.
All right. The next one I want to talk about is called, it was supposed to come out in November of 2020, but then everything happened with like the pandemonium and stuff like that. So it didn't end up coming out till January 2022. And it kind of really fits the definition, because one of the joys of being a film critic is I get to see independent films that don't really get a whole lot of exposure per se. So this one is called Stoker Hills. Have you heard of it before?
I haven't. Do tell.
Oh, okay. Well, this is cool because it's a combination of like a conventional horror slasher, but it also combines found footage. So instead of being like a paranormal movie like most found footage movies are, It's a slasher flick, and it's pretty cool. The idea is it's about a group of film students in college, and they're making this horror movie. But when they're doing it, one of the girls that they're working with gets abducted. So they get in the car with their cameras and stuff, and they follow the car, and then it takes them to this warehouse abandoned into like it's in the country, right? And it's like abandoned. And then they find out they're in way over their heads because there's a lot more going on than just their friend being taken. I don't want to say too much because this is a really good film. But the interesting thing is this movie starts off the way all found footage films end. Basically, there's two cops, and they literally find the footage, and they use the footage that they find to help investigate the case, and they kind of follow the trail because they leave different tapes every now and then. Well, not tapes, but like flash drives. It's modern, right? It's so cool the way they do it, and it's got bonus points too because their film professor, like their film school professor, is Tony Todd.
He pops up in
so you gotta love random cameos from horror icons like that, especially in small independent films like this. Like that's really cool of them to do that.
That's awesome. He pops up in a lot of stuff, which is really cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I really want. Where can you check that out?
Right now, it's not available for streaming anywhere. I searched all over, but right now, so far, it's not available. But hopefully, it's available soon. So I'll put links like when it does come available.
Awesome. Let's see.
It's called Stoker Hills.
What was it called?
Stoker Hills.
Stoker, like Bram Stoker?
Yeah. Stoker Hills. And on the website, I gave it a 9 out of 10. So again, I gave it a really high score. First time I watched it, it's amazing because you don't usually see found footage done like that. Usually, like I said, it's the paranormal, but to see a different subgenre just kind of reinvigorates it. You know what I mean?
Really cool.
A lot of people argue found footage is dying, like it's kind of because you're not really doing that many films like that anymore. But this really reinvigorates the subgenre, and I thought that was a cool way to apply it differently.
Speaking of really indie movies, so Danny and I over on Horror Addicts, we have a group with some of our buddies called Cheesy Movie Club, where we just try to find the cheesiest, just ridiculous movies ever, and we watch them. And we're the other day we're looking over around Amazon, and we find a movie called Pan Man, and it looks stupid. It's a man wearing a literal pot like you'd make Pasquetti in over his head. And we're like, okay, this looks stupid. So we watch it, and it's low budget as fuck. Like, so low budget. But it's really fucking funny. So I love the look of the killer. It's a guy wearing a pan on his head. He's got, like, a cool jacket. But, yeah, you can tell he's, like, really into, like, cooking. And he saves a woman from being raped in the beginning of the movie. He has this whole montage in his head of, like, oh, Pan Man, I love you. And then they get married and everything. And then the relationship goes to hell. And he's just, like, after this whole like sequence in his head, he just kills her. But later on, he sees a girl in a car with a boy, and she's just like, I just, I wish I liked you as much as I liked cooking, right? So he kills the boyfriend, and he like sends her a note, like, want to go out sometime? It's so stupid. And they go on like a date, and this stupid guy comes over and he annoys him, and he like goes to kill him, and she's like, no, don't do that. It's that kind of humor. If you like really dumb humor, you don't mind an excessively low budget, like ridiculously low budget, some cheesy kills and stuff. If you want to see something like just low budget and cheesy and kind of fun, Pan Man is a really good one. It's very original. It's a lot of fun, and that one is streaming on Amazon Prime. So
it's one of those so bad it's good films.
Yeah, it's a kind of so bad it's good, but it's the humor is pretty good in it overall. There are some things that it's low budget. You're just like, you could have tightened that up and stuff, but it all adds to the charm. Even when it's bad, it's good.
But that's the beauty of the independent films. It still has that charm, no matter like it can have like an okay story, and the acting's not always as good, but it still has that charm to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool. It just looks like something like some buddies made on like no money on their own. And it's still really entertaining. And mostly when it comes to low budget movies like that, if they're entertaining, that's all I really want.
That's awesome. All right. For my next one, I want to talk about Hellfest. This one is available on Shudder. Oh, I think you've seen it.
Actually, I've more than seen it. My cousin wrote it.
Oh, no way.
My cousin's a screenwriter.
That's amazing. Oh, wow. So you know all about that.
Yes. Do tell us.
Okay. Well, basically, it's about these people that go to this Halloween haunt, but it's one of those extreme ones, like where they're allowed to touch you and like pick you up and like throw you around and stuff like that. But little do they know that there's actually a killer going around really killing people, but nobody really thinks anything of it, because that's the thing about horror, right? You want to enjoy danger, but from a safe distance. So it's kind of like the beginning of Scream 2. No one really thinks Maureen's being stabbed. They just think it's part of the show kind of thing. But they take that and they expand on that and they make it an entire movie. And it's so cool because this theme park becomes so nightmarish. It's just, oh, I like the way that they set up the story too, and the characters are pretty likable. I like how the kills, again, they're really creative. A lot of them are pretty unexpected too, because you see the characters and the way they interact with the friends. You're like, okay, you can kind of predict sometimes in movies. You know what I mean? You're like, she's gonna live, he might live, she's gonna die. But no, this one is actually unexpected. Some people just end up being killed. It's like, wait, but huh? What?
There's a few that really caught me off guard in that one. And this one, the ending, I feel like, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but you either love it or you hate it. I really liked it. I thought it was really creepy.
It just was like extra punch, like gut punch. You're like, no way.
Yes. It made you think about, like these kind of movies where you have this mysterious slasher with like the gloves and everything, kind of in a different way. And I thought it was really creative. And honestly, that was like the scariest part of the movie. I thought. I know it didn't work for some people, but for me, it absolutely worked.
And a lot of people, they knock the mask, but I kind of like the mask. It's kind of creepy. It's kind of looks like a pumpkin almost. It's kind of Halloween-ish. It's hard to find like actual Halloween movies, not just Michael Myers movies, but movies that take place on Halloween. And this one, it's just good at suspense. It's good at creating that tension of being lost and being delusioned in like these different haunts, right? These mazes that are going on, because you really don't know what's what. And a lot of the effects are so good they look real, and you just kind of have to take a step back. You're like, wait a minute, is that too real kind of thing?
The mask was designed by the same people who did the baby mask for Happy Death Day and the Brandon mask from Scream, the TV show. I thought it was really good. And I think Tony Todd is also in this one in a brief cameo.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. Yeah.
But the production design is fucking phenomenal. Like, you watch this movie and you want to go there. Like, even if there is a real killer there, I want to go there. It looks so fun. It's like horror Disneyland. It's so cool. It looks super awesome. I would love to go. Like, they went all out. It looks like a real park.
In the commentary, they're saying it was actually, they rented out the entire Six Flags park, and they kind of changed it. Like, they put overlays on the rides and stuff like that. So they didn't build a theme park or anything like that. They actually used one. That's
awesome. It does look like a real park. I want to give a quick hello to Hobbs Horror, who's in the chat. Nice to see you. Cheetah says Clown Town is very underrated.
Hey, Cheetah,
Ben Grimm says Midnight Movie. Yeah, lots of good movies you guys are mentioning here in the chat, but Hellfest is a really good one. That one's pretty easy to find. I think it's
and no one talks about it except for like
it's Dead Meat.
Dead Meat's really good at covering all kinds of horror movies, but he's like the only channel.
And Dead Meat, I think Drum Dum's covered it.
I didn't. No one talks about it.
Didn't really review it or anything, just because my cousin wrote it. So I feel like I'm kind of biased, but my cousin's
conflict of interest.
Oh yeah, I did interview my cousin about it though, which was cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy, and he is an emphatic horror fan. So I can tell you, he wrote it with some other people, and a lot of people worked on this movie, but he really worked really hard on this. So a lot of heart and soul in that. But yeah, I think it's awesome, really cool, and really cool that my cousin wrote it.
You can really tell it's crafted with love and care too. And you having said that, and thinking back on it, someone who wrote this really does love horror, and they know how it works, and they know how when to use jump scares, and it's so meta too. Like you could tell a true avid horror fan really wrote that film. So that's cool.
And he loved making it too. Like, they let him be on set, and he got to know a lot of the actors and stuff. And I guess they had a blast. It seems like one of those movies where behind the scene, everyone was having a really good time. I want to talk about another one that nobody ever talks about. I don't know just if nobody else has seen it. But have you seen Girl House?
I have not heard of this one.
I need to look up the year that Girl House came out.
So that's two that I haven't heard of. That one and Pan Man. That sounds really interesting. I have to see that.
Pan Man. Like I said, be prepared for a low budget. But so Girl House came out in 2014.
Okay.
And the premise sounds, I think what hurt this movie was, one, the title. The title doesn't really give you a lot of what to expect. But this movie talked about like cam girls before cam came out.
Oh.
Essentially you have this girl and you get to like her pretty quickly. She's in college, she's just trying to earn a living and stuff. She's kind of got a thing going on with a guy online. And they're just kind of, in the beginning stages of it, but she's going to go join this cam girl house. It's where a whole bunch of cam girls live together to make some money. And that's, cool and stuff, but they are a little restricted in how much outside world contact they can have. So it's really cool. They have this house where all the girls in the house, it's almost like a sorority. They're all cam girls. They all do things their unique way. The new girl, she does get quite popular quite quickly. So there's some jealousy there, because it's just like YouTube or anything else. Everyone's trying to get noticed. And this girl instantly does pretty well. The guy she's kind of dating, I think it's cool that he does find out she's a cam girl and there's no like shaming in that. I mean, it's a job just like anything else. And he still really likes her. Well, here's what happens is one of the fans who's in all of the chats for all of these girls, which makes it he's obsessive, and he ends up getting into the house and he starts killing these girls off one by one in horrific ways. Like the kills on this are insane. Like the kills are gory as fuck. Like they are so gory. The killer is huge, hulking guy. Yeah, he is a little sympathetic too. It's good. It's scary. It's creepy. They're locked in there together. You care about the characters. The kills are really entertaining. And then meanwhile, you have this guy who, the girl he likes is there. So he sees this stuff happening. He's trying to get in there to help her. She also holds her own pretty well too. But it's one that I feel like just nobody ever talks about. Really good, really just amazing kills, great suspense. I've rewatched it a few times. It holds up. It's great.
That's awesome. That sounds really interesting. You piqued my interest for sure.
Awesome. I think
where's that streaming? Did you say? Sorry.
Where is it streaming? This one, it looks like you can find it on Pluto, probably for free. Pluto's usually free. It's also, you can rent it on Amazon. But it does look like you can find it on Pluto TV. It's really good.
Awesome.
Really good.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Let's check in with the chat really quick, see if they got anything. My buddy Craven Something Scary is in the chat. He loves slashers. I love slashers. I know tomorrow he's going to be having some ladies of horror on his show to talk about Scream 3. For the Scream content, he is the best guy to go to. I like the Wicca Bear here mentioned Bloodfest. Bloodfest is a very similar to Hellfest. It's a lot more comedy than that. It's another, they came at the same year too. Bloodfest, it did go a little overboard with the comedy for me in a few places. It's definitely not as scary, but it is ridiculously fun. I enjoyed both movies. I think Bloodfest is a really good one as well. Rick M says They Live. I think They Live is a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen that, you need to see it. Hobbs Horror is recommending Midnight Movie. That's 2 for Midnight Movie now. Venom, Bundy Reborn, Scarehouse, and Catstick Blues. Also, Cheetah says Chocolate Strawberry Vanilla. There's a lot of movies here I have not heard of.
I've never heard of that.
Midnight Man. I have seen that one with Lynn Shay and Robert Englund. Rainbow Fright, another great channel here in the chat. If you guys are not subscribed to Rainbow Fright, not only does the girl have a voice like Velvet, she knows her horror and she's incredible. But she says the underrated categories is one of my favorites. I finally watched Black Christmas, which I never hear people talk about, which is crazy. The original Black Christmas is a damn classic. 5 stars, perfect film. Wicca Bear says Killing Spree is very underrated. Yeah, lots of great ones in the chat, guys. Awesome. I want to hear what you got on your list, Mr. Flexter.
All right, my next one is a little more recent, but still, it came out during the pandemonium, so it wasn't really talked about. It didn't really do very well in theaters because not a lot of people were going. And around here in Niagara Falls, I don't know what it was like there in Washington, but a lot of theaters at this time, like it was released in November of 2020, but theaters were shut down around here at that time. So I didn't even get to see this until it came out later on VOD. So the movie I picked is Freaky. Have you seen that one?
Nice. I love Freaky. Yes.
But no one talks about it. It's so good. It does a nice blend of comedy and does a nice blend of horror. I love Vince Vaughn's performance as a teenage girl. Okay, well, I'll back up.
Back it up.
Basically, this movie is Freaky Friday with a slasher twist because there's this magical dagger that this girl gets stabbed with. I watched this morning too. I watched a double feature, Stitches and Freaky.
You did your homework. You did your homework. Well done.
But yeah, this is another one of those repeat movies. I can't even count how many times I think I've seen this movie. But it's basically this girl gets stabbed with a dagger, and then her body gets switched with the serial killer that was trying to kill her. And then she wakes up in his like warehouse, kind of, because he's kind of like squatting there, so to speak. And then she wakes up at her house, but it's totally different perspectives. And I like how the two actors really do a good job of conveying the other person. Like, it was directed by Christopher Landon. He also did Happy Death Day 1 and 2.
Yes, actually, we're going to talk about him really quick. He also did Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. He is great at doing really fun, almost like the John Hughes of horror. And
yeah,
he takes these movies like Groundhog Day, but it's horror, is Happy Death Day. Freaky Friday, but it's horror, is this one. The one he's producing, he's not directing it, but it is supposed to come out this year, is Time Cut. It's my most anticipated movie of the year. And they sold me on the premise, which is Back to the Future meets Scream.
That's awesome.
So far, Christopher Landon has not done me any wrong. Freaky was such a fun film.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. It was so much fun. I'm trying to look up her name real quick. Sorry, I don't want to get it wrong. The girl that plays Millie. I'm so bad with names. Catherine Newton. She plays Millie, and she does a good job of playing that innocent schoolgirl, kind of virgin. Like, she's got Final Girl written all over her, kind of thing. But then she can just flip her expressions, and without even saying any words, it's amazing. Just by looking at her, you're like,
just serious.
He's not kidding around.
I love Vince Vaughn as Millie. He is so funny. So precious. There's a scene in this movie, and it could have gone so wrong. Especially, I mean, if you would have told me Vince Vaughn is in this, you know, I still have a little bone to pick with him because of the Psycho remake. But there's a scene in this where on paper, you would have just been like, this is a big mistake. You have Vince Vaughn. I mean, yes, a teenage girl is in his body, but he's with his crush, a teenage boy, and they kiss. And on paper, you're just like, that is such a horrible idea. But you watch it, and it's weirdly heartwarming. It's a little cringe, but it's definitely not gross.
Just the way
you would think it would come off really uncomfortable, but no, it's actually kind of sweet. He does such a good job of being Millie that you honestly forget that it's like a 40-year-old man there. You know, he is Millie. He is so good at being Millie. And he's so like, he gets that perfect. Like, he's not trying to make fun of the character. Like, he's genuinely giddy to be with his crush in the car. And so you forget about it. And he's so good in this. He's so good. I wish comedic performances got more recognition as far as awards and stuff go, because he is really phenomenal in this movie.
If you notice, even those little things, like the way she like bites her nails, he does that sometimes. He even like brushes her hair back, and he does like the eye thing. Like, a lot of people argue that's like a generic teenage girl, but when you watch it on repeat, like, you kind of notice the little nuances that you may not have seen like the first time, because you can't really judge a movie the first time you watch it. I really believe you got to see a movie more than once, because you don't know, the first time you see it, your mood might affect the way you view it.
Absolutely. I try to watch something once as just a movie as an audience member, and then another time a little more critically. But yeah, I think at least a couple times, because sometimes, you know, I call it the Corky Romano effect. Case in point, I saw Corky Romano drinking with a bunch of buddies, and I thought it was the funniest fucking thing I ever saw, because we were having a great time. All my friends were over, and we watched it. The next day, I bought it. I rewatched it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so fucking stupid. This is like dumb fucking movie. But I enjoyed it the first time because I was with my friends. I've also, like, 28 Days Later, I saw that in the theater. It was one of the worst experiences. There's people like smoking weed in the theater. They were being loud and obnoxious. Couldn't focus on the movie. I fucking hated that movie for the longest time just because I had a horrible experience. Then I watched it later on. I'm like, this is brilliant. So yeah, absolutely. I agree with the having to watch something more than once to really give it an accurate, like, you know, read.
Absolutely. Another thing I love about this movie is how creative the kills are. It's one of those ones where no two kills are the same again. And you're going all over the high school. Like, there's something to do with like a crowd chamber. There's something to do with knives. And then there's like the shop class scene. And oh my God, it's not afraid to just go over the top with the violence and the gore. And it's at that point where it's kind of not like so cartoonish, but it is over the top, like Splatterfest kind of. It reminds me a lot of those 80s movies from like those old time slashers. Oh, it's a nice little callback, but it's also something new at the same time, and it's just a good mix. Like,
everyone wants to know who your friend is.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this is Elsa.
Oh, hi, Elsa. Oh my gosh, she's so beautiful.
She
Look
always
at those
wants my attention.
eyes.
She always wants my attention when I'm on the phone.
Oh my gosh. She
Elsa.
is precious. She's baby, huh?
Yep. She's 6 years old, actually. She's not that old.
Oh wow, she looks like a kitten.
I have another
Maybe
one.
she's got that disease that Keanu had, in the movie Keanu, where she's a kitten forever.
I have another one.
Oh, hi. Hi, baby. You're so cute.
She's older. That's Bella.
Bella. I have a boy, and he's an orange tabby, and his name's Kirby. Actually,
Oh,
he's my
that's awesome.
cat. But yeah. Kitties are so cool. Yay.
So what do you
I
have
got
next
so
on your list?
distracted.
Sorry for the distraction there.
No. Cat distractions are always welcome on this channel. Actually, I did a whole
yeah.
stream on just killer cat movies. Yeah, I love cats.
Oh yeah, I was there. I watched it.
I think it's a witch thing. We like cats. We like cats a lot. Everybody in the chat likes cats.
Oh yeah, especially Cheetah.
Yes, Cheetah. Oh, Cheetah loves cats.
Love cats.
Cheetah loves cats. One I really want. It's my turn, right?
Yeah, your turn. Go ahead. I just talked about Freaky.
Yeah, you did. All right, that one's really good, guys. I want to talk about one. I think not enough people have seen it. I believe it streams on Shudder, and you can kind of get my sense.
Sorry. Freaky's on Shudder. Sorry. Go ahead.
I think you can kind of get a sense of my sense of humor, I guess, by the movies I'm recommending. This one's called You Might Be the Killer. One, I love this because Buffy is like my favorite thing ever. I worship everything Buffy. It's got Allison Hannigan in it, so already I was going to check it out. It also has the guy who played Marty in Cabin in the Woods is in it. Let's start with the premise. The premise of this one is these two best friends. One works at kind of like a nerd store. And she's like the manager of the store, and she knows her movies cold, especially her horror movies. Her buddy is a camp counselor, and he is really hoping that this is the year that he locks down his crush that he used to date, that they're going to be able to like rekindle something. But he calls her up and he's just like, yeah, everybody is dying, all these things. And she's trying to help him figure it out using her movie knowledge. And then eventually she's just like, have you considered that you might be the killer? So it's a cool premise, but what I love about this is how this movie came to be. This movie, if you guys know the author Chuck Wendig, really funny guy. I love his books. And he's on Twitter, and he's really funny on Twitter. And him and another writer were kind of riffing, and they were going back and forth. And it was kind of, people were really invested in this story where he's like, oh, I'm at summer camp. What's this? Is there a mask? All these asking each other questions. And then finally one of them was like, you might be the killer. And it was just so funny. And people were so invested. They're like, let's make this into a movie. So this came from a fucking Twitter banter that was so good that people wanted it to be a movie. I didn't know that. That's hilarious. But it's fun, it's meta, it's you really do care about the character, even though he might be the killer. I love Allison Hannigan in this. She's just so nerdy, and you can tell her store closes like within the first act of the movie, and she's like on the phone, like just like the audience is like hanging on, like trying to figure out what it is. You also care about this friendship. I love when Shang-Chi did a really good job. A lot of movies, especially like in the 80s and even the 90s, if you had a male and a female character in something, they were going to be romantic in some way. They had to be. Yeah. And this is just two buddies. One happens to be, and Chuck is named after Chuck Wendig. She's Chuck, which I think is great. But yeah, they're just buddies. And I love that because I have many male friends. And this reminds me a lot of the relationships with my horror friends, Yeah. It's great. It's really unexpected. Fantastic kills. It even also gives you the kill count in it. So yeah. It's really, really funny. Really funny.
It's so good. I actually forgot about that one, so I'm really glad you mentioned it because it's just one of those ones people don't talk about it, and I think it's because no one really talks about it that I forget that I watched it. But as soon as you say that title, I picture the guy's face when she says that to him, and I love how like most of the movies just on the phone, it's just two people having a conversation, and then he does his little flashbacks, but he's not really a reliable narrator because
he's not. And what I like about this
his memory is not the best, and I'm the same way. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. What I like about this is kind of a theory I have with a lot of slashers where he's not really evil. The mask is evil. So it makes you wonder, like Michael Myers, was he evil or did he get a mask from Silver Shamrock as a child? I like Scary and I have talked about this a lot. Is it the person or the mask? that's evil. And in this one, it's entirely the fucking mask, which is really, really cool. And I own this movie. I've watched it multiple times. It holds up. I would put this and Final Girls right up there with Cabin in the Woods. So if you like Cabin in the Woods, and who the fuck doesn't like Cabin in the Woods? If you like movies like Scream, Final Girls, and You Might Be the Killer need to be on your watch list. These are really, really funny movies with really talented people in them, in front of and behind the camera.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you, sir. I want to give a quick shout out and say hi to my buddy Extra on Gaming who's here. My brother Zigma51 is in the chat. Wicca Bear says, You Might Be the Killer is on Sci-Fi app these days. It left Shudder a few months ago. Well, that's a bummer, but it looks like you guys can catch it on Sci-Fi. Also, like I said, I own it. It's one, it's like you said before with Stitches. It's a comfort movie. You know, you just want to put on something, you just want to laugh, you just want to forget the world for a little bit. This is a great movie, especially during the pandemic. I watched a lot of movies like this where they just kind of were a nice escape. Sometimes you need an escape. You know, sometimes you need to be challenged, and that's when you watch your Henry, or Portrait of a Serial Killer or something like that. But sometimes you just want something comforting, and that's what this movie is. It's a buddy. It's a horror buddy. You know,
I think I'm gonna put it. Yeah, most of these films are like that. The horror buddies, and it's a shame that not really too many people know about these films. So
that's what we're doing, dude. We're taking that light and we're just shining it.
Shining the light. Shining the light. I love it. So next, I might be kind of bending the rules with this one because my friends and I talked about this one, but still, it's not one of those like really, really well-known ones. And that is Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon.
I almost put that on the thumbnail, so I'm glad you mentioned
it. Oh. That's funny.
You and me, dude. We're on the same page.
I thought that clip was in the thumbnail because it has the girl like kind of chopping down on some guy.
That's the Final Girls.
Oh, that's from the Final Girls. Okay, my mistake. But yeah, this one's really cool because it's like a mockumentary style, kind of like The Office or something like that kind of thing. But in this world, like Freddy Krueger, Jason, Michael Myers, they were all real people that actually existed in the different towns where those movies take place. And it has a lot of callbacks and references to those horror movies. And this movie gets bonus points because it actually has Kane Hodder and Robert Englund in the same film. And that's something that horror fans have wanted for so long after the disappointment with Freddy vs. Jason, him not being in it and everything like that. Kane Hodder, obviously. But yeah, this movie is really good at setting up the story, and it really makes you question, like, morality and stuff like that, because at first, like, the news reporter is all for helping him out, and then she's like, wait a minute, we're trying to help him kill people, like, should we even be documenting this? And then it becomes super meta after that, and it's kind of like Stoker Hills. It's like half mockumentary and then a half like conventional horror film. It jumps back and forth, and it plays with a lot of the cliches and a lot of the tropes. And I love how it's Leslie Vernon's perspective, and it shows you how hard it is to be a serial killer, because it shows them like trading and stuff like that. He's like, well, I gotta be able to keep up with people like when they're running away, but I can't run. You know what I mean? Like,
I love that scene. He's like, they're booking their asses. He's all sweaty and stuff. He's like, and I'm just sitting here. I have to act like I'm just walking, and as soon as they have their back turned, then I'm running. Like, it gives you like it's a lot of that stuff that, you know, you lovingly jab at a movie like Friday the 13th. Like, how the fuck did he catch them? I bet he was running. I bet he was running when they had their backs turned. This movie takes all of that, and it's so loving. One of the things I think is fun about this movie is he has a mentor. Like, they have a lot of these things in there, like the Ahab, which is like his Dr. Loomis, played by Robert Englund.
Yeah.
Has a mentor, and the mentor a lot of people believe is Billy from Black Christmas. And it's really cute and wholesome in places, but then you realize like they're gearing up for him to actually murder people. And it also kind of calls into question like a lot of like documentaries and stuff where it's like they're not allowed to intervene. But at what point are you like complicit? You know? Exactly. And they're like straight up fucking murder some people. And it's so good. It's so funny. Half of it is a straight up slasher movie, and half of it is like this really fun, like you mentioned, The Office type mockumentary. It's so good. And they've been talking for years about a sequel. Give us the sequel. I want the rights of Leslie Vernon so bad.
I just want to mention Nathan Basil, real quick. He steals the show as Leslie Vernon because he does this comedic timing, and he can be really funny. But then just like that, he can just turn dark and then remind you, oh yeah, this guy's
he flips on a dime. There's a part where he's scolding the director, and you're like genuinely afraid for her. But my favorite part with him is he's in the library and he's like, Paradise Lost. Found it. You guys need to watch it. Okay, I feel like I'm not even selling this movie nearly well. This is a classic. It belongs up there with the greats. Leslie Vernon should be a household name, and it's a crime that he isn't.
Especially if you love the major horror franchises, because there's just so much more than Scream. I think there's just so many callbacks to so many horror movies. Even that old lady from Poltergeist is in this movie randomly.
Yes,
You gotta love
I
it.
believe the tagline for this movie was like Freddy, Jason, Michael. Everyone has to have a hero. Like, it's this guy treats it like a job. Like, he talks to his mentor like about how he wants to be a great slasher. He wants to
Yeah.
be great, and they
Yeah.
talk about all these things, like the things that like how they die at the end. They explain that you kind of do like this like thing to like slow your breathing down. You take time in like a some kind of a chamber thing, but
The
like
hyperbaric chamber for conditioning.
Yes, they explain all this stuff and how they're training for it. It's crazy, and he really sells one being the comedy, but also you believe that this person is genuinely passionate about like this is the thing they wanted to do with their life more than anything.
He could be a cold-blooded killer, yeah, and that's what's really cool about it.
Like,
the whole transition.
This is his art. You know, like he's in tears at one point when it's
when
finally
he's talking about his life's work. Oh my god, like he's one of those sympathetic people too, because you kind of wanted to succeed, but if this was like all happening in real life, you would actually kind of question that too. You're like, wait a minute, do I really want him to succeed that much?
Yeah.
These poor people, like. I love too when he's like nailing the window shut, and like once they smash the glass, and he's like, "You would think so," because they never do that in movies. Right?
No, they won't. I love it. Yeah, Gregor Grog also mentioned the part 2. We really need that. I like that Extron Gaming mentioned Cherry Falls. That's a good one. Danny mentioned Idle Hands. All About Evil is now streaming on Shudder. That's one that Wicked Bear mentioned with Cassandra Peterson in it. Lots of good ones in the chat here. Absolutely. Do you have more?
I do. I have one more on my list. Do you have more?
I'm like I said, I'm
seat
in my pants, buddy. Seat in my pants.
All right. Well, the last one I want to talk about is a mid-90s film. And this was when video stores were still a thing. For people born in 2000s, there was a place called a video store where you would go there, like Blockbuster, and you would see, it was like heaven. You just walk around, and then as far as the eye could see for some of them, there's nothing but videos, and there's different sections on these things called VHS tapes that played on these things called VCRs. And the reason I picked this movie up in the first place was because the cover art in the horror section, I was like, oh, I have to see this movie. And it's called The Ice Cream Man. Have you heard of it before?
Yes, The Ice Cream Man. It's Howard.
Yes, it's so good, and no one talks about it. But it's just one of those ones I just kind of grew up with, and I just keep kind of going back to. And I don't know if it's ever had like a streaming release or anything. It might be on Shudder.
It's on Shudder because Joe Bob covered it on the last season.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's still on there, but it was on there.
Well, basically, this is like the worst ice cream man that you could ever have, because basically he's being investigated by these kids who think that there's something wrong with the ice cream, and the cops get involved too. And then turns out he's actually, it's not really a spoiler because it's kind of like obvious right off the bat, because that's what most of the scares are. But he's actually putting different body parts into different flavors of the ice cream. And this movie is not for the squeamish, because some of the stuff that is in this ice cream will make your stomach turn. Like, I'm not very squeamish, but even some of the stuff, like some things really get me, like fingernails stuff, like eyeball stuff.
The scene in The Ring where you see her fingernail in the wall of the well, that gets me.
Yeah. This movie's full of those little cringe moments like that, but you can't look away because it's just one of those cheesy, like corny, like so bad it's good horror movies. Like, you can't take it seriously at all, like right off the bat, because it has like this accident, like, you're the ice cream man now.
I love Olivia Hussey in this movie. She's like his nurse.
Yeah.
And she's adorable. She's so cute. She doesn't even like horror movies, but she's in some great ones. Like, she's in Psycho 4, I think. She's in Black Christmas. She's in this. She's in the It miniseries. Olivia Hussey, she's great.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because this movie does have that Stephen King kind of vibe, because you follow the group of kids and they're trying to figure out this like the secret to like this evil guy, you know what I mean? So it has kind of that mystery to it. It has that suspense to it. And I really like Clint Howard as the ice cream man himself. Like, that's Ron Howard's brother, in case people didn't know. He's so good in this. You can tell he really had fun in this role.
Awesome. Very good recommendation.
Like, totally off the wall crazy killer. He's really good at that.
Very good recommendation. I'm gonna mention a few shorter ones, kind of like Spitfire ones, where I'm not gonna go super in detail with them. They're not like, but one I really like. For some reason, the year I was born, there was a shit ton of movies about birthdays. Like, I'm not kidding you. Happy birthday to me. Allison's birthday. There's a shit ton of horror movies about birthdays the year I was born. It's a great year for horror. Anyway, 1981. It was awesome. That was in the 1900s, kids. It was a long time ago.
I was born in 85. That's funny.
Nice. But one that doesn't get enough love that I need to cover on my birthday one of these years. I did Happy Birthday to Me, which is great, by the way. But Bloody Birthday. This movie is so fucking weird. So you have this small town, and there's a group of kids who are fucking assholes. And they're all born during this weird moon. So they're essentially born evil. They're just fucking evil. And like these kids straight up take guns and shoot people. Like, it's brutal. These are some of the creepiest kids I've seen in movies ever. Not enough people talk about this movie. It does have the kid, not the one who played Tad, but the one who owned Cujo, and Cujo, he's in it. There's not like a lot of big names in it and stuff. I think just because there's so many big movies like Halloween 2, American Wolf in London, Raiders of the Lost Ark, a lot of big movies came out in 81. I think it just got kind of overshadowed. But it is genuinely creepy. It's a fun slasher. It's unique. It's good.
That's awesome. I haven't heard of that one actually. So is that available on Shudder? You think?
Let me take a look. It's on Tubi.
My go-to is Shudder.
You can watch it for free on Tubi.
Oh, Tubi. Awesome. Great.
But yeah, it's a good one. It's set in the 70s. It's really just creepy because a lot of times in these movies with kids in them, I always get the impression that the kids aren't really going to do anything that bad. Even with Village of the Damned, some of the classics, I don't feel like the kids in this movie, like, they are capable of anything. It's kind of up there with like, kind of more of a grindhousey version of kind of the same thing. Devil Times 5. That one's a lot more low budget, a little bit cheesier. I do think this is the better movie, but they are kind of on the same line. Just kids doing these really insane, fucked up shit. I like both of them, but definitely Bloody Birthday is one that I would highly recommend.
Is it like up there with like Children of the Corn type of evil kids kind of thing?
Children of the Corn, I think, takes the cake for me. That one really does get under my skin, but it's definitely up there. I would put it in like, I don't know, top five probably. Like, the kids in this are fucked. They're fucking evil. They are fucking. If I met them in real life, I would be like, nah. That wasn't acting. You're actually evil.
That's a good thing about Tubi, I find too. There's a lot of older horror movies, so if people aren't familiar with it, they have a place to find it. That's really cool.
Awesome. Do you got any more for me? If not, I got some more I can throw out at you.
Off the top of my head, there's Blood Rage. That's a really good one. That's like a Thanksgiving slasher, and that's really cool because there's not that many Thanksgiving horror movies. And I think you quoted this before.
That's not cranberry sauce.
That's not cranberry sauce. Yeah, what's that close from? It's called Blood Rage. I think it has different names depending on where it was released. Like in some places it's called Slasher or something like that. But the main thing, if it's on Shudder right now, at least it is in Canada. Keep in mind, I'm in Canada and she's in America, so if it's on Shudder here, it might not be on Shudder there.
We might have different stuff. It was on Joe Bob's Last Drive-In.
Yeah. But pretty sure Blood Rage is going to be on there because it's one of those 80s cheesy movies. It really sets up and plays out with the evil twin premise. And I've always really liked that premise, but I always thought it was never properly executed. Like, it never stuck the landing. I mentioned bad endings before. But with this one, I think it really does a good job of playing with that evil twin concept, and it does not play out the way that you think. Like, the ending, I was actually, like, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, oh my God, like, really? Like, they went there? Like, it's not many movies shock me because I don't know about you, but after seeing so many horror movies, you're like, yeah, that's it. Same thing. Whoa, something different.
It's also one of those movies where it was done in a time where practical effects were like pure magic. And some of the kills in this, you're just like, holy shit, how did they do that? There's some really good kills in this. I also love Louise Lasser.
That's his name.
She has a pretty big part in this movie. She plays the mom, and she's honestly the scariest part of the movie. I think, like, she's just so deranged. Because you have essentially, it starts off really good. Like, there's these two twins in a drive-in movie, and one of them commits murder and gets locked up. And then the movie really plays around with like which one is which,
Mm-hmm.
and then the one that was locked up comes out, and so you're like, well, which one's the good one? And it really messes with like your perception a lot. But it's really good. The guy who plays the twins does a good job. You know which character is which. But
Mm-hmm.
mostly, I think the real standout here is the practical effects. And like I said, Louise Lasser, there's a scene where she's in front of the in front of the fridge, just mowing down on leftovers. Like, she's so good.
I really like the cinematography too, because back then they put a lot more care, and people might not notice the difference, but I think it does make a difference when movies are actually filmed on actual film. You know what I mean? Instead of being all
I agree.
digital and stuff now, like because it kind of has that graininess to it, and it kind of adds to the atmosphere a little bit. And that's something I think is missing with a lot of modern films. It doesn't have that old feel to it, that old touch. I like that.
I agree. I agree. Very good pick. I'm gonna check in with the chat. See, Dr. Waluigi mentioned Jack Frost, not the one with Michael Keaton. I mean, I'm guessing. He didn't specify. They're
I'm
both
gonna say.
terrifying. Yeah. Danny mentions mom and pop stores like Block are better than Blockbuster. That reminds me of another movie. I don't know if you call it a slasher, but Mom and Dad with Nicolas Cage. I fucking love that movie. That movie's
I haven't seen that
great.
one.
Great Nicolas Cage movie. Essentially, there's a radio transmission that makes all of the parents want to kill their children. Like,
Oh,
they're trying to break into the fucking school.
well,
And it has a lot of commentary on like how the newer generation kind of like, there's like that sense of being replaced by the newer generation. Like, you love your children, you want them to succeed, but you also don't want to become obsolete. Like, they use comparisons to like cell phones and stuff.
that's
And
cool.
it's crazy. Nicolas Cage's dad is played by Lance Hendrickson, who at one point is running around trying to stab him in the ass. His wife is played by Selma Blair. And there's comedy in it, but it's just it's mixed with a lot of other stuff. Like, there's some really dark parts. Like, at one point, a woman gives birth and she instantly starts trying to kill the kid. And the thing is, you want to kill your own fucking kid. You don't want to kill other people's kids. So like, somebody
Whoa.
does stop that from happening. She's there. She's like, oh my God. But they don't recognize that they want to kill their own kids. So like, it gets way crazy, way fucked up. But definitely, if you love Crazy Cage, like where he's over the top, this is a really good one, and one that not enough people, I think, saw. We reviewed it over on Horror Addicts. Really fun movie, really good one.
That sounds awesome.
Tatum says, Gory B, question: if you could pick an amazing movie like Scream, which I love so much, what would it be? As far as, I think you're asking me, like, which ones are just like amazing to me. I love The Craft. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. That one, it still resonates with me every time I watch it. Also, Fright Night. It just has this kind of, just, some movies have this like quality about them that's just pure magic. That's like the magic of cinema. And that's one. Gremlins. There's a few movies like that for me that I feel are just, they have like this magical quality. What about you?
Me, I watch it every Halloween. It's Nightmare Before Christmas. It was like my introduction to horror before, because I was always too scared. But something about that really got me intrigued with like the dark and spooky stuff like that. And then when I got a little bit older, I ended up watching Scream. That was the first horror movie that I watched. It's what got me into horror in the first place. So it was really cool. When I went to Megapulse Comic Con, I got to meet Roger L. Jackson in person, and I got to talk to him. And
I've met
it was
him
just
too.
so nice. Oh wow, that's cool. Hold on, I actually got his autograph. He autographed my Blu-ray.
Yeah, I have an autograph on a poster of Scream. I'm not sure where I have it right now, but he autographed. I met him like a couple months ago. He autographed a poster of Scream for me, and he was doing like the Mojo Jojo impressions and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ghostface. He's so cool, so cool.
It's
I
so
love
cool how
him.
he transitions. Like when he's talking, he just transitions from one voice to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. It's so smooth.
He's
Like,
amazing.
one minute he's Mojo Jojo, and then he's Ghostface.
Yeah, it was a real treat. Like, Danny was taking pictures, standing in front of me, and he's like, I want to know who I'm looking at. Or he goes, who is that? I said, oh, that's Danny. He's like, oh, good. I want to know who I'm looking at. Like, he's so creepy. It's so cool. Like, I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. I love that. I want to mention one in the chat really quick. Waluigi and Wicked Bear mentioned Curtains. That's a Canadian slasher film. Canada really was on their A game with slashers in the 80s. Curtains is a great one. Decapitated Head in the Toilet Seat. Need I say more? Also, Black Christmas, My Bloody Valentine. Exploitation 80s slashers are wonderful.
Thank you for the recognition. That's awesome. Not many people know that all these movies came from Canada.
Happy Birthday to Me was also Exploitation. I have a lot of love for Canada in that movie. You should watch that one.
Also, not really a slasher, but the original Saw movie was filmed in Toronto, so it came from Canada too, and it premiered at TIFF,
Yeah.
the Toronto International Film Festival. This tiny little movie that took place in a bathroom that cost less than $1 million, and now it's one of the major horror franchises around the world. Like,
Made
who knew,
by
right?
a couple Australian kids.
Yeah, a couple of Australians of all things. So,
Yeah,
like,
I love
who
stories
knew,
like
right?
that.
That's so
Also,
cool.
you talked about Nightmare Before Christmas. I highly recommend checking out on Netflix. Danny and I have been watching. I love it. It's a series called The Movies That Made Us. They also did one about
Yeah.
the toys that made us, and they had a great episode on there about Nightmare Before Christmas. And the newest season, season 3, is all horror. So, someone recommended that to me recently. Might have even been you. I don't know. Someone recommended it to me, and I'm really enjoying it. So definitely, if you guys haven't seen it, check it out.
That is a
Really
good show. I
good.
watched that too.
Really good things in the chats here. Dr. Waluigi mentioned My Bloody Valentine. Obviously, Tatum loves Scream. Wickabear getting some deep cuts here with Fatal Frames, Killer Workout, which is also called Aerobicide, and Death Spa. Torchbearer also met Roger at Crypticon. Strange Monkey Reviews is in the chat. Great creator there, guys. Definitely check him out. Some more deep cuts. A lot of people didn't like this. I feel weird recommending it, but for some reason, Danny and I fucking loved it. Aqua Slash. Fucking love that shit. It's cheesy as fuck, but it has this quality about it. It has this quality that reminds me of like The Burning, some other, like there's a lot of 80s slasher movies that got overshadowed. They got overshadowed by Michael, by Jason, by Freddy. Your movies like Curtains, like The Burning. And they had this special quality, and that people are now discovering now. Like a lot of people are discovering The Burning now and Curtains now, and they're like, why wasn't this a bigger deal? It's because it got overshadowed. Aqua Slash has this quality to it where I feel like 20 years from now, it's going to be a cult classic. I 100% feel like that because it's so sincere, but it's also fun. And essentially, there's a killer who puts fucking saw blades in a water slide. Sold. And the deaths are so cheesy, like the makeup effects are so cheesy, but it's done so earnestly. Like these people really wanted to make this kind of throwback movie. It even has that kind of grittiness and grain to it that calls back to early 80s movies. It reminds me a lot of the exploitation and stuff. And so I think if you have that mind frame going into it, you're going to really like it. It didn't do very well because I think it doesn't quite match the tone, atmosphere, of modern slashers, especially post-Scream era slashers. This is a throwback slasher, like a true throwback, a little slower in the pacing. I mean, it's like a ladder, literal water slide. You know how you go up the ladder, you go up the ladder, you go up the ladder, and it's all for this big payoff in the end. The actual Aqua Slash thing only happens at the end, but it is interesting all the way up to there, and you know you're building up to this big payoff, and the payoff is lovely.
Yeah. That's a good recommendation. That's awesome.
Danny did a great review of that over on Horror Addicts.
Cool. Another one I thought of off the top of my head is Chopping Mall. Have you seen that one?
Love Chopping Mall. Got my boy Dick Miller in
that. That's awesome. People are trapped in the mall and they basically have to survive.
My only problem with Chopping Mall is it seems like from the title that it would be like a straight up slasher. It's like these killer robots, which it is still a slasher. Great killers, but it should have gone with the original title, which was Killbots. I think that would have been cool.
But in my opinion, there's not enough killer robot slasher movies, and this is a classic one that not many people talk about. Like it's not as well known, but like you said, everything gets overshadowed by these big titles, and that's why we have people. Yeah,
and totally. That's why I always say, like, when something unique is coming out that's not part of an IP, it's not part of a franchise. You know, take a chance. Check it out. I mean, we're all going to go see Halloween Ends. We're just going to see it. But Bodies is coming out, I think, this month. Check it out. It's a slasher movie. It's not part of an IP. They, them. Kevin Bacon is going back to summer camp, guys. Kevin Bacon. It's about a camp where they, a conversion camp, where they take LGBTQ plus kids and try to convert them. Mm-hmm. And Kevin Bacon is one of the directors of this camp, which is kind of a fun Friday the 13th send-up. And I love it because it's a slasher movie. People start dying, but even the title, they slash them. Like, even the title, genius. Awesome. I can't wait to see that. That's going to be streaming later this year. So, yeah, take the time to take a chance. I mean, yeah, they may not be something you like, but you won't know until you see it. And if you do see
Exactly.
it, like Scream, I remember when Scream came out, like for the longest time, there hadn't been an original horror movie for a while. And I remember Fangoria was what told me that Scream was coming out. And then it didn't get a lot of marketing. And I took a chance and I saw it just because I wanted to see something, new, because the sequels had been kind of running a lot of the franchises into the ground. And it's to date one of my best experiences at the theater. And you only get those really special experiences when you take a chance. I think more often than not, you end up being pleasantly surprised. It's usually when you go to a movie like Halloween Ends, where your expectations are through the roof, where you kind of walk away and are like, okay, it was good, but maybe it wasn't what you really wanted. I feel like that about the newest Scream movie and Halloween Kills. But sometimes these ones where you have zero expectations, they end up really being something special.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I'm really looking forward to Terrifier 2 because I like the first one so much. I like the clown. So that's pretty exciting.
The premise for it sounds really cool too. Like, I just like the idea of this, heroine who's dressed up like this, like angel of death, and it sounds like it's going to be really badass. They're bringing back the sister who survived from the first one. I wonder how she's going to fit into it.
Yeah.
You mentioned like lower budget ones. Also, The Barn is supposed to have a sequel here. Really, so The Barn was a pretty fun movie. It's cute because the guy who wrote it, he wrote it when he was 9 years old. As like a little comic, and he loved the idea. And it's this barn that like kind of creates like these monsters out of like Halloween characters. It's got Linnea Quigley, Ari Lehman, who was the original Jason. It's really fun. And Barn 2, which is another idea he came up with as a kid. It's done. It's coming out later this year, and this one even has Darcy and Joe Bob in it, and Lloyd Kaufman. So that one's going to be really fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know about that. I didn't know there's going to be a sequel.
Yeah, this year. I think it's going to be really fun. It's kind of one that not enough people got to see, but it was super fun.
I'm looking forward to Smile. That looks more like a demonic possession movie, not a slasher, but we're talking about new horror movies, right? So that one looks pretty interesting. I'm not really sure what it's about, and I like that. Trailers too often show too much.
My son told me about Smile. Can you tell me a little bit more about it, though? Because I don't know much about that one.
I don't really know much about it. Based on the previews, this woman is haunted by this evil entity. Maybe it's a demon, something like that. But whenever it possesses somebody else, I think it's sort of the same idea of like Jason Goes to Hell. It jumps from body to body to body, that kind of idea. They get this like crazy smile on their face, like worse than a Joker smile. It goes like all the way up, but it's really weird looking.
Like an It Follows kind of thing.
Sort of thing, yeah, kind of like that. But then that's basically all I know. She's being haunted by this thing, and she's trying to figure it out. That's what I mean. It's very vague with the previews, and I kind of like
that. I liked that Nope started off that way. I think Nope is showing way too much in the trailers now, which is kind of bumming me out because I can't avoid them.
I have no interest in the movie at all.
I want to see it, but I liked it when it was mysterious. Now I feel like I know too much about it. But another one, I mentioned Time Cut, which is one, the Scream meets Back to the Future that's coming out this year. I want to see. Another one that I think is really intriguing because we're kind of moving into talking about like slashers coming up this year. Especially ones like, you guys know about Halloween Ends. If you don't know about Halloween Ends, I don't know how you found this channel. Yeah. We're talking about kind of maybe some obscure ones that you didn't know were coming out this year. One I really want to see is called Dark Harvest. It's based on a book by Norman Partridge. And I think it's going to be really fun. So you have this town where they have this like annual ritual, and they send the boys, it's only for boys, to go, and they have to go in, try to hunt down this pumpkin-headed creature. And if you kill it, then you get your freedom, because nobody's allowed to leave town. You have to stay in this fucking town. Mm-hmm. And so if you want a chance at leaving, you have to do this, even though most people who do it die. And it just sounds like it's going to be creepy, a little bit Pumpkinhead, a little bit, kind of like, I don't know, like The Long Walk, kind of like those kind of stories or movies. I think it's going to be really creepy and really good. And the book was really good. So I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Do you have any other movies you want to shout out really quick?
Off the top of my head, let me see. Oh, did you see Clown?
I almost was going to talk about Clown. That's one that Danny and I really like. It came out in 2014. It was directed by John Watts, who John Watts is also the director of Spider-Man No Way Home, Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home. This is what he did before that. And it started off as a short film, and I really love the fucking balls this guy has. The fucking balls. He basically was like, it's produced by Eli Roth. He hadn't gotten Eli Roth's permission. And Eli Roth is like, the fuck? And he looks into it and he's like, no, this is pretty cool. Sure. Okay, I'll do it. And I don't blame him, because it really is that kind of a movie. This man, he's a dad, and his son wants a clown for his birthday, and he sells houses, and he happens to come across this creepy old like Pennywise like clown costume in a trunk, and he puts it on, and gives a great party to his kid, but then he can't take it off. It's a little bit of like that Goosebumps story, the haunted mask.
Yeah, exactly.
He tries to take out the nose, and his actual flesh comes off. The longer he has his costume on, the more they become one. It's almost like a symbiote, like Venom.
Like Venom, yeah.
Who he is, and it changes who he is too, to the point where he starts killing people, and he becomes more and more this evil entity. And this movie is not afraid to fucking kill kids. Like, not at all. It does not shy away from grisly death. It does not shy away from grisly death of children. This man has a child, and there are parts where you're like, oh shit, he's gonna straight up murderify his baby. It's really good, but it's also good too, because like the wife and the son, they know the man in there is innocent. He wouldn't consciously kill anybody. So you're rooting for the guy, but you're also really afraid of him too. The makeup in this is phenomenal. The makeup on him, he's a very creepy clown. He belongs up there with like Pennywise and Stitches. And Stitches, unfortunately, also doesn't have a lot of recognition. But yeah, if you're going to have a clown double feature, your underrated clown double feature absolutely should be Clown and Stitches, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because it's the same thing. Like you really see that struggle. Like you know, he's really trying to resist this suit, and you can tell, you can really see his frustration. I forget the actor's name, but he's so good at capturing that the frustration.
Andy Powers. Sorry,
Thank you.
it up. Yeah.
But that internal conflict is so well illustrated. Just not by like the stuff he says, but even just expressions. It's really underrated.
Yes. Absolutely. It has that kind of conflict you see in a lot of werewolf movies, where they're becoming something and they can't stop it. And it's kind of ultimately up to somebody they love to take them down. You know? So it's got a bit of that. It's got a lot of elements. It's got a bit of that, killer clown that preys on children. It's got a lot of unique elements to it. And it is genuinely scary. It is very unnerving.
Yeah. And okay, this might sound really messed up, but I really appreciate it when movies have the guts to kill kids, because it really adds to that suspension of disbelief. You're like, wait a minute. If that kid's not safe, then what's going to happen next? Like, you don't know which kid is going to be safe. It's like you said with his own kid. You're like, ooh, is it really going to go there? Like, where's this going? It just gets you so invested and so enthralled. Like, you can't look away. And I love movies like that.
Absolutely. And that's another one I own too that has held up on multiple rewatches. I want to check in with you guys in the chat. We're going to be wrapping it up here soon. But send me your recommendations, your comments. If there's something here that you've seen that you want to give your recommendation to, stand behind it, or something you want to throw out that we haven't talked about. Danny on Horror Addicts, by the way, great channel. Really, really just lovely host. Danny Nightmare, just lovely. Anyway, Deadly Friend is one of my favorite movies. I really enjoy it. It's a Wes Craven one, very underrated, so overshadowed by his other work. And it's so unique. A lot of people also don't realize it's based on a book. And Deadly Friend, I love it. It is a bit tragic in that the movie we got isn't what Wes Craven wanted to make. He filmed almost an entire movie before the studio was like, we don't like it. You need to cut out a lot of the science fiction stuff, which this is more of a science fiction than a horror. Right. Cut that shit out, make it more of a slasher, which they did. And there was also more of a romantic subplot, and they wanted that cut out too. Essentially, what this movie's about is you have this guy who's like a genius with like computers and medical, science. And he has created a robot called BB that it's basically a friend, it helps out around the house. It's a buddy. They all hanging out with it. Well, he's friends with this girl next door who's played by Christy Swanson, and she is clearly being abused by her father. And he has another buddy. BB gets destroyed by the woman who's the old lady in Goonies.
Oh.
And he's just devastated, but he still has his buddies. But then shortly after, his friend, the next door neighbor, she's killed by her father.
Oh, okay.
And so he takes what is remaining of BB's, like the robot's brain computer that made it function, and he puts it in the girl's brain to bring her back.
Okay.
And she's not quite herself. She has enough of herself that she knows who wronged her. Like you can see her giving her dad like this dark look through the window. She wants to get him back. She wants to get the people who wronged her back, but she doesn't talk. She holds her hands like the robot did. She's really good at this. But it's just so sad. Like, she shouldn't have died in the first place. And there's some great kills. Have you seen this movie?
I haven't seen it. I'm really interested.
Oh my God, you gotta see this. I'm gonna spoil just one kill for you just to sell you on this shit. Sure. It's so good. She essentially goes and gets revenge on all of these people, and that's what the studio wanted. And so, yeah, it works well as a slasher. I wish I could have seen what Wes Craven wanted to make. It makes me sad. But it becomes slightly of a slasher where she goes and she gets revenge on all these people who wronged her when she was alive. And it's got a little bit of RoboCop in it, too. You know how he slowly regains his humanity? She's starting to kind of become herself again. And you're rooting for her to get there before she's gone too far. And she has to be destroyed. But there's a scene where she goes to the old woman that killed BB, because it's like her and BB are one in this brain. Mm-hmm. And this woman would take their basketballs, right? Like go into her yard. The girl, and she's got the strength of a robot. She takes the fucking basketball, throws it at this woman, and the woman's head explodes. Straight up explodes like a watermelon. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen put to film.
I love it.
Awesome. So that
reminds me of one of the kills in Stitches, but I don't want to get into it because that's one of the best ones. So yeah, you know what I'm talking about though.
Yes. Martin in the chat, Anthropomorphic Fiend, says he adores Deadly Friend. One of the first reviews I ever made was talking about that basketball kill. It's so good. So good. Such a good one.
I'm so glad we had this talk because I learned a lot just from hearing you talk. Like, you had a lot of really good suggestions there.
Thank you. I certainly. I mean, there's so many more I want to suggest, but this is just a little taste. Maybe we'll revisit this conversation sometime. Lily and Dad talk horror in the chat. Nice to see you here. Ben Grimm says the Fear Street movies. I 100% agree.
Those are newer, but yeah.
They had that trilogy, and those were actually supposed to be released in the cinemas, and due to COVID and a lot of other things, they ended up being released straight to Netflix. And I think that actually was a really smart way to do it. They were released week by week on Netflix, and so you started to look forward to them. And I will say, even if you watched the first one and it wasn't your cup of tea, move forward because they are very different. The first one is almost like a throwback to 90s slashers.
Yep.
And then the second one is like straight up like your 70s type camp horror. And then the third one is, it mixes a lot of different elements, but it's really good as far as like a pagan witch story that I really enjoyed. We don't get enough of those.
It's like a period piece almost.
Yeah, a period piece, and then it's also modern too, and wraps up the whole story nicely. Has some surprising twists in it. Really great kills. The cake one, guys. The cake kill. So good.
Yeah.
It's so good. I will tell you, behind the scenes on that cake kill, so I said, I'm going to just spoil the one kill. Just going to tell you how it happened.
Sure.
A girl gets her head put through a bread slicer. And the director, Lee Janiak, which I love that we're getting more women directing horror, she wanted to have this kill. And the props people were like, there's no way in fucking hell a bread slicer would go through someone's head. And she's like, challenge accepted. She gets a watermelon. She does it, and it goes right through the fucking watermelon. She's like, okay, any questions? Let's just like, love it. Love the gumption. Love it. My friend, the Glamour Ghoul, is here. I adore her. Nice to see her here. And yeah, Anthropomorphic Fiend. I also agree that the first two movies got better and better. The first one, I was kind of, I loved the soundtrack, but it was a lot thrown at me at once, and I wasn't quite on board. I like it now on a rewatch.
Yeah.
On a rewatch, it's really good now because I understand what's going on, but it was a lot at once, I felt like. And then I really liked the second one, and then the third one was my favorite. So I think if you've seen the first one and you gave up, give it another chance. Watch it as a series almost.
I think the second one has the girl from Stranger Things. She played Max.
Yes.
She's really good in that.
She's so good. I really love her on Stranger Things, and she was great in this.
I hope she gets some more stuff like this because she's a really good actress. She could be the next Scream Queen, you know what I mean? Like Emma Roberts is trying to be.
Yeah, she's really talented. Somebody else, I love Samara Weaving. She's been on a lot of horror lately. I think she's so good, so talented. She was in Mayhem. She was in Ready or Not. She's in the Babysitter movies. She's
Those are
really
really good too. Yeah, Babysitter. There's two of those.
Babysitter movies. Yeah, those are really good. I highly recommend those as well. Yeah, I think we've talked about some awesome movies here. I really like all of your guys' suggestions in the chat. It looks like Ben Grimm said Jaws the Revenge is my second favorite Christmas baked shark movie. Wow, that's really specific. Behind Santa Jaws.
I'm not laughing at you. I just love that answer. That was so good.
I love it too. Dr. Waluigi said People Under the Stairs is a must-watch for Wes Craven fans, and The Ward by John Carpenter. I love The People Under the Stairs. So good. One thing I love about
that. Sorry. I almost mentioned that, but I questioned, is that a slasher? Like,
We're kind of throwing. I'm just going to talk about ones in the chat now. But
we just love horror movies.
Horror movies. Wes Craven gets a lot of his ideas from the newspaper, and that was one where he read about some robbers who broke into a house and they found these people under the stairs, like these children who had been kidnapped. Like sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. It's so creepy. But that's such a good movie. Wicked Bear mentions one of my favorite movies, Monkey Shines. Slasher with a monkey killing people, works with Shakma as a double feature. Monkey Shines is terrific. Great things in the chat.
Awesome suggestions, guys.
Yeah, Tatum's really enjoying having you here. Meet you, of course.
Thank you, Tatum.
Yeah, you've been a terrific guest. I really love your knowledge and your passion for horror movies and slashers. We're gonna have to do this again, guys. A true YouTube crime. Our buddy here, Mr. Flixer, can't even stream on his channel because he doesn't have enough subs. Like, it's ridiculous. This is a YouTuber who's going to be like one of those million sub people someday. It's going to be, we're going to look back on this as a strange moment in YouTube history. We're like, what? He couldn't stream at one point? That's ridiculous. So get in on that now. Get in on that now.
45. I'm at 45. Yes. I'm so close. I think you need 50. So close.
Go in there, subscribe to his channel. Tell your friends who love horror, because this guy does a lot of horror. Tell them about some more of the stuff you're covering on your channel and what you have coming up soon.
I have covered all the Scream movies. I reviewed them and I ranked them. I cover stuff like documentaries like on Netflix, like Conversation with the Killer, because I have this strange obsession with serial killers. Don't ask why. I have all kinds of different movies. I review family-friendly horror movies like Hotel Transylvania, and I even consider Turning Red a horror movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but it is kind of like a monster movie. It reminded me a lot of like Teen Wolf, like Inside Out. It's a Disney movie. It's a Pixar movie. It's on Disney Plus. It's kind of like those kids horror movies like Nightmare Before Christmas, like Coraline, like Paranorman, something like that. It's animated. It's so good. It's about this girl. She turns into a red panda. I don't really want to get into specifics, but yeah, it has a lot of callbacks to like different monster movies, and there's even a kaiju reference in it. So you gotta love that.
That's awesome. Yes, and her mom like comes to her school and like Karen's out, and then she gets embarrassed, and then poof, she's a panda.
Oh yeah.
That's so cool.
It's so good. So I have all kinds of. I don't do just horror. I do all kinds of horror movies because I just love film. But horror is my expertise, and I tend to lean on that. So most of my stuff is horror based. So yeah, thank you for the shout out there, and thank you for having me on the show too. This is so surreal because I'm just used to being in the chat down below while someone else is talking, and now it's just me and you having a conversation.
Awesome. We're hanging out. We're having a good time. Tatum, awesome. Thank you for mentioning the Patreon. My channel is not monetized, so if you want to support the show. Check out Gory B Movie on Patreon. You can join and pledge for as low as $1. We do monthly movie nights. I don't know, adding some more stuff on there. There's like merch and stuff. It's super fun. Denisha says, I should watch Maximum Overdrive. You know, I watch Maximum Overdrive a lot. And it just keeps getting funnier every time I see it. It's really good. I love it.
Guys.
And guys, check out Mr. Flixer's links in the description. I've got his YouTube. I've got his Twitter. I'm going to be adding more links so you can look up Horror Buzz, all of the stuff he's doing. Just like he said, he's doing a ton of cool stuff. What's your next video that you're working on?
Well, right now, I apologize to my subscribers because I haven't actually put anything up for like a month or so or something like that. I just had so much Comic-Con coverage that I had to go through for Horror Buzz and then for my own channel. So that's what I have coming up soon. Niagara Falls Comic-Con coverage.
Awesome. And I got a question for you from the chat. By the way, we're wrapping up here. So if you guys have any questions for Mr. Flixter before we go, now is your chance. Martin, the anthropomorphic fiend, wants to know, what is your favorite non-horror movie?
Ooh, that's a good question. I do watch a lot of comedies. So I'm gonna have to say like one of those '90s Jim Carrey movies, like maybe Dumb and Dumber or like Ace Ventura, even Liar Liar. Like I'm a sucker for classic Jim Carrey.
Those are great choices. My favorite movie of all time is not a horror movie, except for one scene. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Like, I live by that movie's code. At one point, Roger escapes from the handcuffs, and he goes, "You could do that the whole time?" And he's like, "No, only when it's funny." That's how I live my life. Like, was it funny? It's justified. If it's actually funny, only if it's funny. It's good. Love.
All-time favorite quasi-horror movie is Jurassic Park. I love the original Jurassic Park. It's kind of a horror movie.
Good.
It's so good.
Honestly, Who Framed Roger Rabbit has the most like chilling death ever in cinema. When the Toon shoe goes into the dip.
Yeah. The dip. Oh my god. Made me cringe. And then the eyes at the end with the villain. Oh my god.
When I killed your brother, I sound just like this. That movie's so scary.
So
it's so good.
Yeah, I know.
So good. It's a good intro to horror. Like if you're easing people in, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So good. So good.
So good.
Thank you, Tatum, for posting the link to the Patreon. Hopefully we get some more people in the B Movie Coven. Lots of good stuff happening there.
It's a good channel, guys. Support Gory.
Yes. The Glamour Girl wants to know, what was the first horror movie you remember seeing?
The first horror movie I remember? That would have to be Scream. That was like my gateway into horror. Because I like Nightmare Before Christmas because that got me into like the spooky stuff, and I was kind of curious about stuff like that. But I never really had the balls to watch like a full-fledged horror movie all the way through before. Like I tried to watch like Critters or like even Gremlins scared me as a kid. Like I was such a wimp as a kid. Like even Ghostbusters, some of the scenes in that scared me. Like the dogs, the like Zool and stuff like that. Like and even just Gremlins. I'm not sure if I mentioned that one, but that was another one. Like I tried to watch it. Movie. But I could not watch it all the way through. Like I could never get past the kitchen scene in the first one. Like after that, I was like,
that movie is scary. It scared the shit out of my brothers, and I understand. I love horror, but until I was like 13, I used to always have a pillow ready to cover my face. So, dude, I completely understand.
11 when my sister sat me down and let me watch Scream with her for the first time, and that's what got me into my love of horror. And it's really cool because when Scream 5 came out, we got to see it together. And short little funny story, my sister not only introduced me to horror, but she also inspired my rating system for my channel because I've been watching a lot of YouTube doing research before I even started this, and I wanted to have something that differentiated myself from other ones. So now I have the popcorn rating system. And basically, long story short, she said that she was glad she only bought a small popcorn when she saw Scream 5 because an extra large wouldn't have been worth the money. So I was like, light bulb. And then it goes from there, like extra large, large, small, and then of course no popcorn would be the worst.
I've tried a lot of different rating systems on my channel. I've tried grades, I've tried stars. I'm gonna change it up on the next one I do because I honestly feel like I don't want to get locked into any one grade because it's all subjective, and I really want people to focus on the review. My friend, because it came from Cheesy Movie Club, my friend came up with the cheese grater. All right. I love it. I think I'm going to bring that onto the Gory B Movie show. And we basically, whenever we watch a cheesy movie together, we compare it to a cheese. Like, it was Swiss cheese. It was full of holes. It was a cheese fondue fountain. It just kept giving the cheese.
You should totally do that. I love that.
I think I'm going to yoink that for my channel because it's really fun. Awesome. Let's see. My first horror movie I remember seeing, I actually talked about this on Sledgehammer Horror, was The Fly. So do check out, it's in my collabs too, if you want to hear more about that. And
I also have fond memories watching slashers with my dad. Like after I saw Scream, like he introduced me to like Halloween and Candyman and stuff like that. So
very cool. My mom did that for me. My mom did.
And I always had a close personal attachment to like the Child's Play series because not many people realize, but the character Andy, his birthday is November 9th, and the movie takes place on and around that day, and that's my birthday. So we shared a birthday. And there's not that many movies that take place on my birthday, so that's pretty cool.
I firmly believe, and it's a video I've been working on for a while. I firmly believe Chucky is the best and most innovative slasher franchise as a whole.
Hmm.
More passion and love and creativity has gone into that franchise than Halloween, than Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, fight me on it. That's my opinion. I know it's extremely unpopular, but I'm going to make a video kind of going into detail about why I believe that. But a lot of it is because if you view these slasher icons as like babies, like John Carpenter, he took that baby Michael Myers, and after the second movie, he dropped that shit off at the firehouse and was like, "Yeah, I'm done." And it's been passed around to some pretty shitty foster parents at times,
Hmm.
and they mistreated that baby. Same thing, a lot of the other icons, but Don Mancini and David Kirshner have taken the baby that is Chucky, and they have raised it the whole way through, and they have as much passion for telling stories in this franchise now as they ever did. And they continue to take risks, and maybe not all the risks pay off. Maybe you haven't liked every movie, but they took risks and they still got back out there and took more risks, which is really hard to do. A lot of studio kind of films play it way too safe, and if something doesn't work, then they don't allow them to experiment, or they'll change up the cast or something. And not what Child's Play, not at all.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love how they carry through the storylines from all the movies and try to combine it into the television show too. If you guys haven't seen the show, it's so good. It's so underrated because I don't really hear people talking about it that much.
I love
But
it. I have it on Blu-ray.
a lot of
And
prequels. Sorry,
so no, go ahead.
a lot of prequels, they have this problem with answering questions that I never really cared about. But this one actually touches on stuff like, how did Chucky meet Tiffany? How did Chucky become a serial killer? Why is Tiffany the way that she is? Like, what's the deal with Mika and stuff like
Who was
that?
his first
Where
kill?
did Kyle go this whole time? Yeah, who was his first kill? Like,
What
it
were
actually
his
goes into
parents
all this
like?
stuff. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It actually goes into all this stuff, and I wanted to know more. Like, oh, the kids are okay. Like some of them are not really likable, but some of them kind of come around. I still don't like the main girl, the blonde. I forget her name, but she was really mean in the
Yeah,
beginning.
there.
But
I'm excited for season 2. So this is
season two is
on
really exciting. That's my point.
Peacock.
See where it goes.
And I was really lucky at CryptoCon Seattle. I interviewed Fiona Dourif and Christina
Oh,
Lees. That is on, you can look in the collabs playlist on my channel for that. It's on the CryptoCon Seattle YouTube channel. We talked a lot about it. I'm really excited that Glenn and Glenda are coming back. I'm really stoked. And they told me that this season 2 is going to be like, there's one episode that gets just insane, and it's going to be so good, just so over the top. And I just love how passionate and excited everybody involved with this franchise is, and how excited they still are. And very rarely does a horror franchise move into television and continues to be as good as it ever was. The only other one I can think of that's managed to do that this successfully is Evil Dead.
yeah, the Scream show didn't really do too well. I couldn't get past the first episode, to be honest. Like, I was not into that show at all. But this show
Yeah.
is such a breath of fresh air. It's amazing. There's Tiff there.
Yeah, there's Tiffany. Tiffany always watches the thing, and I got so many Chuckies and stuff. But my mom knows Chucky's my favorite, so I have so much Chucky stuff everywhere. I love Chucky so much. That's not to say that I think any of the Chucky movies are like, I think individual movies. I would rank Nightmare on Elm Street higher than any Chucky movie, but as a franchise as a whole, yes,
I
it's
got
so
the Blu-ray
cool.
here. I got Alex Vincent to sign it. I didn't even get Brad Dourif's autograph.
Oh, I wish I
And
met him.
those two women they're supposed to come to Niagara Falls, but they didn't make it. But I still got to meet those two guys, and that was pretty
That's
cool.
so cool. I met
Yeah.
Christina Lees and Fiona Dourif. Alex Vincent was supposed to come, but I guess he's a massive Nine Inch Nails fan.
Yeah.
And he was following them on tour, and he got really sick, and so he couldn't come. But that's also the thing that led to me getting to interview those two women, and they were so nice. I went
So
up to
jealous.
their tables the next day. I'd never interviewed anyone at CryptoCon before. I actually told my boss at CryptoCon, I was like, I think I'm ready, because I just do panels.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm ready to interview someone. And then the night before, he's like, Alex Vincent canceled and we're moving things around. You game? And I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Because he knows I love Chucky. And I was so excited, but I went up to their tables the next day and I had my money and everything. I was going to buy an autograph and a photo with both of them. And Christina Elise was like, no, we're friends. I'll just give it to you. Pick out which picture you want. And then Fiona Dorf, I didn't assume she would do the same thing, but I went there, I had my money, and she's like, no, put your wallet away. Put your wallet away. Like, they were so sweet, and just really just amazing women to interview. Just, God, I love Chucky. I love both of those performers, and I love the characters they play. I am so stoked for season 2. So like Chucky, What We Do in the Shadows, those are like my 2 like horror series that I'm so excited about. But God, Chucky, it's gonna be so good.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny too if you think about it, because you met the 2 women and the 2 guys didn't show up, but I met the 2 guys and the women didn't show up.
I
So it's
would
kind of opposite, isn't
die
it?
to like
Yeah, they're
meet
trying to
Dora.
cast. So
Fiona
together
Dora
we met the
talks
whole cast.
about she talks about her dad, and she says he's like to everyone he's like the slasher icon. To me, he's dad, and he's like this weird like hermit, and I guess he's even like weird about like hugging her and stuff. Like he's just weird and like kind of like shies away from people, but he's so supportive of her. And I guess he told her, because he talked to her on a video chat where she was in the makeup as him because she plays him younger. Yeah. And he's like, "Are you me?" He was kind of weirded out by it, but he said that she does a better job playing Charles Lee Ray than even he does. Like he's so proud of her, and it's just awesome. Like he's pretty much had to raise her as like a single dad and stuff. And it seems like they just have a really cool relationship, and she gets to carry on this legacy that's meant so much to her dad. And it's really cool. It's really kind of heartwarming, which is something you don't see a lot. So
you can really see the love in her performance too, how she likes to emulate her father. She goes a lot darker too, I noticed in the show. Like she's really good at playing Charles Lee Ray.
So good. She naturally does that laugh.
Like, yeah, that laugh is so good.
So crazy. We'll have to talk more Chucky.
I can do a whole stream on Chucky.
I could talk about Chucky for forever. So let's hang out again soon. This is not the last you guys are going to be seeing Mr. Flixter. We're going to have to talk about some more slashers, maybe Chucky next time. Do stay in touch. Do check out the description. I'm going to update it as soon as the stream is over. I'm going to mention all the movies we talked about. Put those in the description. I have links for Mr. Flixter that I'm going to be updating and adding even more stuff on there. But I'm definitely subscribed to his channel. Great content. And for more of me, I'm sure I'll see you here in the chat on Sunday. I stream every Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And this week it's the one, guys. We've been working on this for a fucking month. This Sunday is the death battle.
It seems longer than that, no offense, but oh my God, I've been waiting for this for so long.
I've been waiting for this for so long because we did one of these at Crypticon and it was so limited. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool to do an epic one with like categories? So this is it. We have our entire roster. So we're going to start with round 1 and probably get to like round 2 Sunday. I'm excited to actually get into the death battle, this massive horror battle royale. Hope you will join me. I love hanging out with you in the chat. I know Danny will be with me. Hope everybody here in the Gory Hole. It's going to be an event this coming Sunday, so the day after tomorrow. Come back here and we're going to have a blast, buddy. It's going to be awesome. And you and me, we're going to have to chat again here soon. Hit them with your sign out and anything else you want to tell them before we call it a night.
If you like what you see, you want to see more, you can find my reviews on horrorbuzz.com. I'm also on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, standard social media and stuff like that. I want to take this time to thank you, Gory, for this invitation. I didn't think that we talked for as long as we did, but it was just so much fun. And you are so knowledgeable about these slasher films. Like, so sometimes when I talk to people, I forget they're not as into movies, let alone horror movies, as I am. So I have to kind of lay off on the conversation, but with you, I can just go right into it. And you're like, yeah, I'm with you. I don't have to explain a lot.
We are in this Gory Hole together, buddy. We are going to get down and dirty. So much fun. Do stick around after the stream. We'll chat a little bit more. And for everyone in the Gory Hole, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of the chat. Always a pleasure to see Wickabear, Tatum, Extron, Ariel, Robin, Martin, all of you who watched, everyone.
One more thing, sorry. I just did a stream the other day with Have Cheetah Will View. So if you haven't seen that yet, make sure you check that out. If you want to know more about like who I am and where I come from, he did an interview with me. So I kind of get into a little bit deeper with my backstory. That's
Very
right.
Cool. I have a same kind of stream with Have Cheetah Will View on the 14th. And Cheetah streams every week 2 hours before my Sunday stream. So check him out. You make it a night of horror. Great channel.
Yeah. Huh? He does a lot of good interviews. I just wanted to shout out my friend there.
He does. Very good. Yeah, I'm really excited to be on his show. This has been a real treat, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And until we meet again, blessed be.